Yo, what's up, everybody? Here's that second video, and this is going to be on the urinary system. And hi, dude. Hey, little man. When I say little man, I'm talking to my dog, the half border collie, half cocker spaniel over here, and he came to check on the baby, and now he's coming to check on me. So if you see something black and fuzzy pop up in the screen, that's just him. So anyway, this video is just dedicated to the urinary system. You should be cracking this open with Dr. Bott and Dr. Rohraback, and some things you want to think about with the urinary system. When people look at the chapter, they realize, hey, this chapter is really short. And so what should I be really focusing in on this chapter? Well, I can guarantee you that three things that you absolutely positively need to understand when you walk out of the urinary system chapter is, number one, the nephron. Oh my gosh, if you don't understand the nephron, if you don't know the nephron, that's like, dude, that ain't what you want to do. Not understanding the nephron is like trying to watch a Star Wars movie and not understand the dark side and why it's bad. The nephron is at the center of everything. I probably say 85% of the stuff that the chapter gets into triggers back to the nephron. So you need to understand the anatomy of the nephron and why it's there and how it works. I cannot stress that enough. I've got a couple of videos on YouTube in my The Professor Nixon channel that has some lectures that go into that. Dr. Bott and Dr. Rohraback are awesome. They know how to explain this thing front and back. You need to definitely hit them up and talk to them about the nephron. The second thing you need to understand from the chapter is systemic results of the actions of your kidney. In other words, when your kidney does something, it has a direct effect on the rest of your body. You need to understand that. So I'll give you an example. If the kidneys decide that they're not going to throw away a lot of water and they're going to reabsorb water, when you say that kidneys reabsorb water, it means that they were going to throw that water away as urine, but you reabsorb that water and you put it back into the bloodstream. By you putting it back into the bloodstream, it makes your blood volume go up. So that's one thing that your kidneys have a direct effect on your body with. It makes blood volume increase. Well, number one, if you make blood volume increase, then number two, you make blood pressure go up. Because if I increase the amount of blood that's in the pipe, then the amount of pressure in the pipe is going to go up as well. So now blood pressure goes up. So number one, the kidneys have a direct effect on blood volume. Number two, they have a direct effect on blood pressure. And then number three, they have a direct effect on pH of your blood. And that's extremely important as well. You've probably heard of acidosis. You've probably heard of what happens when low pH, how it affects your body tissues, how it affects the muscles. Anybody in there that works out, that runs, that's ever been an athlete, that's ever been involved in anything that's been motion oriented, or you just like watching sports, or you just like understanding the body, you understand that pH, low pH for your body can be a bad thing if it's prolonged. It can cause damage to tissues. Your kidneys are designed to make sure that that doesn't happen. You damage your kidneys, then they can't make sure that that happens. And so then it happens. So those are three key things that your kidneys have a direct effect on to your body, that they have a systemic. Yeah. She agrees again. It has a systemic issue there, or a systemic result: blood volume, blood pressure, blood pH. The third thing that you definitely need to know when you get out of that chapter is regulation and urine production. Because basically regulation and urine production is, how do I throw crap away while keeping what I want? So sometimes I tell this story. I tell the story about when I was working as a camp counselor. It was a math and engineering. It was a STEM camp at Clemson University. And they tapped me to be a counselor one summer. And I'm down there, and some kids pulled off a practical joke on this one kid. It was a prank. Kid comes to my room at like 1 a.m. about this prank. And he shows up in my room with his phone, and his mom is on the other end at 1 a.m. She's telling me she's about to drive up from Charleston all the way up to this camp to tell us about ourselves, how, we fell on the job and let her child be, have someone do something bad to her child. And she was a lawyer. Great. She was coming to talk to us about, pressing charges or whatever. I was so mad. I told her, I said, look, you know what? You can come on up in the morning. We'll be here to talk about it, but I'm going to go handle this personally. I went down the hallway and I yanked out every boy out of every room that morning and put them on the floor in the hall. And I used some old tactics my dad used to use when he was when he was a drill sergeant in the military. And needless to say, I soon learned who each one of the culprits were, who was the guilty parties, and that pretty much everybody knew that this practical joke was being played on this one kid. And I narrowed it down to the actual people who carried out the action. Now, in order to pull that off, I wound up having to punish everybody. And when I do mean all of the boys in the camp, I'm talking about every single boy in the camp. Drugged them all out of their rooms at about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. After about an hour and a half, they were broke. And they were admitting what went down. So your kidneys, I tell that story because your kidneys do the exact same thing. When your kidneys go to filter things, they pull everything out of your blood. It doesn't feel like it because this is happening on the level of a nephron, and it puts everything back before the blood ever leaves your kidneys. So this is not something you can feel. People have a hard time wrapping their head around, what the kidneys do, because they're like, I don't feel my kidneys pulling stuff out of my blood. Oh, you're not, because it's happening right there in the nephron. By the time blood leaves the nephron, most of everything it pulled out has been put back in. So you're not feeling anything. You don't feel like you miss anything, but you need to understand the regulation in the urine production, because while the kidneys are trying to make urine by pulling out water and waste products and different things that it wants to throw away that's excessive, the kidneys also have to decide, what do I want to keep? So it may say, you know what? I don't want to throw away all this sodium. Let's keep some of the sodium. I don't want to throw away all this water. Let's keep some of this water. Let's keep as much of this glucose and these amino acids and manganese and magnesium and calcium. Let's keep all of that. So it needs to reabsorb that. Otherwise, it's going to throw it away. And there's different ways that you regulate that. Sometimes we do it hormonally with aldosterone, which causes us to retain sodium. And wherever salt goes, water goes. So if aldosterone causes us to retain sodium, then water will follow that sodium. So sodium will go back into the bloodstream, and so will water. Sometimes we throw things away based on pH. If the pH of the blood is too low, then we will secrete hydrogen ions out of the blood and into the nephrons, and then it'll throw away those hydrogen ions in the urine. If our blood pH is a little too high, it's too basic, then we may not throw away as many hydrogen ions, and instead we may throw away the bicarbonate ions instead. It all depends on what you need. There is no one-stop shop for this. The urinary system kind of frustrates people because they wait till about the night or before the exam, and then they go into cram because they're like, oh, well, it's the shorter chapter, so I'll spend more time on the digestive system and less time on the urinary system because there's less notes in a shorter chapter. I got this. Yeah. Then they get to the urinary system and they're like, I'm confused. I'm frustrated. I hate urinary system and I hate Mr. Nixon. Hold up. Time out. Before you go that route, you need to understand that the urinary system is not a one and done system. It's dependent. So the things like the anatomy of the urinary system, oh, please memorize that. The parts of the nephron and what they do, please memorize that. But things that are like dependent, you can't memorize that. You have to understand, okay, if I have too little of this, then how do I offset it? If I'm dehydrated, what does that mean? Okay, so let's use that for an example. If you say that you are dehydrated, what does that really mean? Dehydrated means that you don't have enough water to go around. Basically, you need water in your skin, your eyeballs, your blood, your saliva, your urine. You need blood for all types of things, your muscles. So if you're dehydrated, you don't have enough water to go around. Do you really think your kidneys are going to throw water away as urine if you don't have enough water to go around? No, you're not going to do that. Your kidneys are too smart for that. So if you're dehydrated, then your kidneys are going to try to retain water. Well, in order to tell your kidneys not to throw away water, your body will step in and say, hey, you know what? Maybe I should release this stuff that you guys learned way back in January called antidiuretic hormone, ADH. And ADH is released from my posterior pituitary, and ADH, antidiuretic, goes to my kidneys, and it tells my kidneys, look, in a diuretic situation, you throw away a lot of water. In an antidiuretic, it's against. So don't throw away all this water. We need it. That's an example of something that's not a one and done. It's dependent. Am I dehydrated or not? If I'm not dehydrated, then I'm not going to release ADH. So don't tell me that you're releasing ADH and you're not dehydrated. No point. But if you are dehydrated, probably so. That whole time that you were like waiting for me to like resurface and say that I was alive, we were in that adoption process. And man, that thing was deep. And it was touch and go every hour. You didn't know what was going to happen until literally the end of the week. It was not us sitting in a cushy, place, just kind of holding it down, living life and living it up. That it was not that at all. It was every hour something different and things being touch and go a lot. So needless to say, because of that, the soda machine down the hall, sodas were cheap, but water was like $2 a bottle. So if you didn't have cash or whatever, or if you were just kind of really thinking to yourself, Costco sells 36 bottles of water for $2.99. I'm about to pay $2 for one bottle. That starts to get to you. So you're not drinking as much water. You start getting dehydrated. So guess what? Mr. Nixon had to fork out that $2 and get bottles of water because I was thirsty. I was getting dehydrated. And so your kidneys are working differently. So it's dependent, man. It's really dependent. You have to look at the question and you have to ask yourself, okay, what's happening here? What's really happening? And why is it happening? And what are my kidneys doing about it? Or what should my kidneys be doing about it? If I want to retain water and I release aldosterone, why is that a good thing? Easy. Because if I release aldosterone, then my kidneys will retain or reabsorb sodium back into the blood. Well, water goes wherever salt or sodium goes. So if I keep sodium, then I keep water. Water goes back into my blood. Not only that, but if water goes back into my blood, volume goes up. If the volume goes up, blood pressure goes up. I'm knocking out three different things by using one hormone affecting one electrolyte, which affects water for my entire body. That's the urinary system. So you want to look at it that way. So remember, three major things that you need to know out of this chapter. You need to understand the nephron. Oh man, please. You got to know the nephron. All right. Systemic results of the actions of your kidneys. What happens, things like changes in blood pressure, blood volume, blood pH. And then how do I throw things away and keep what I need, which is basically regulation and urine production. And that's essentially it. That is the chapter in a nutshell. That's why it's short. Don't underestimate that chapter. Don't underestimate the digestive system. Digestive system and urinary system, you need to write some things out. I would not try to learn those two chapters for the test and for the final exam without definitively outlining what things do and where. You try to memorize your way through those chapters, I'm telling you, it might end up kind of bad for you. I've watched some people who are really, really good at memorizing things really struggle with this one. They had to bring their A game. Am I saying that you won't make an A if you're a memorizer? No, I've seen memorizers make an A on tests with these two chapters. It's just really difficult. And you can save yourself a lot of headache by formulating a plan ahead of schedule. If you're a memorizer, you needed to have started now already. Get through the notes. All the notes are already in the folders. Dr. Rohrbach and Dr. Bott, they already got access to the notes, so they know what's coming. They know what they're dealing with. And so should you. So if I get some time, I'll try to post a couple of more videos about some of the other chapters coming up. Aside from that, I'll bid you adieu. Holla.